Jason Ross, J-Mars, hanging out this morning, and now we bring in the voice of the 49ers, Greg Papa. Greg, where are you guys? Did you guys stay out east or come home after that Ravens game?
Well, the team did. The team is in Bradenton, Florida. They flew right from Baltimore after the game on Sunday, got to Florida Sunday night, and have been there all week. They practiced yesterday, and obviously today and tomorrow. They're going to fly to New Orleans, short flight on Friday. They're at the IMG Academy in Bradenton, which is a state-of-the-art facility. The Raiders trained there a few years ago, and they had back-to-back games in Tampa and Jacksonville, and some teams go down there. So I think it was a great decision to do it. I heard you talking earlier about, early in the year when the first two games were in Tampa and Cincinnati, they stayed in Youngstown, and the weather was fine that early in the year. The field there in Youngstown's not great, so they want a little better field, I think. Plus the weather in Florida. The IMG Academy has got all kinds of teams. It was a tennis academy years ago. Still is. They have all kinds of soccer and football teams, but they actually have a football team, which is a dominant football team on the high school level. But their season is over, so I think the 49ers have the run of the place. And so I think the major thing it's going to do is just save the wear and tear. I flew back. I had to work all week, obviously, with the Warriors and the radio show, so I came back. And that's just a long flight. I mean, there were a lot of headwinds coming back from Baltimore, and then to turn right around and fly back will save the wear and tear on the body. There's no doubt. But I think more importantly, the game's at 10 o'clock in the morning kickoff our time, and it's just hard to get up on Sunday morning. But you spend the whole week on the East Coast, your body gets acclimated. Right about this time of the week, I think they'll start to feel like as Kyle Shanahan says, we're East Coast people. And I think that'll help them get off to a good start, because you just cannot get off to a bad start against this team. With their pass rush, and, Cam Jordan is such a factor. Joe Staley's going to be back in this game, it sounds like. You just can't fall behind this team. The way to beat this team is to get ahead of them, the way Atlanta did a few weeks ago in their dome, and then unleash your pass rush against them. So getting off to a fast start is critical every week, but really critical in this game with the noise, the crowd noise. You don't want to be put in the situation where you got to throw to come back. So I think it really turned out to be a no-brainer that they would stay on the East Coast. There was a question of where they would go, and the IMG Academy state-of-the-art.
I want to go back to last week's game, watching it and listening to it. It was awesome. I mean, I didn't leave watching that game thinking that the Ravens were better than the Niners, that the Niners were better than the Ravens. I looked at two very, very good teams. Honestly, when the Niners went for the fourth down, I didn't think the game would end that way for the Niners, that they wouldn't get the ball again. You called the whole thing. What was your overall assessment of what I thought was honestly a really entertaining game?
Well, there was a point probably about 6 minutes to go in the game where I just screamed out, what a great game this is, and it's playoff football. I mean, it's the weather. We'd like it to be at Levi's, but, January at Levi's, you could have a torrential downpour. I mean, the 49ers and Cowboys had some monumental rain games back in the 90s, so we get a lot of rain. It's raining now. So, that's the kind of game you're quite possibly going to have to play as far as the conditions, cold and rainy, and it was just it was a great game. It was two teams that slugged it out back and forth in big offensive plays, big defensive plays. It was a great football game. There's no doubt. I think the one advantage that they had is that Justin Tucker is the best kicker, some say, in the history of pro football. I think when you combine the fact that he kicks outdoors in his career, where the Andersons, Gary, and Morton kicked indoors, maybe he is. Maybe he is the greatest kicker. He's the most accurate kicker, and Robbie Gould was just coming back off the quad, and I don't think plus the footing was rough for him. He just was not at 100% yet. Hopefully in the Dome on Sunday he will be. I don't think he was, and I kind of thought it would come down to a field goal. With Justin Tucker, if you get anywhere, and the rain was a factor as far as the length, but I saw him warming up earlier in the game. I thought he could have hit one even longer, and he had plenty on the 49-yarder to win the game, and Robbie's got blocked. But there were several plays here and there, the fourth downs. Obviously, the ball that got tipped when Jimmy was going over the middle to Garoppolo. So I actually came away from the game thinking the 49ers are a better team than Baltimore. I think there were some circumstances. Playing in their home stadium, obviously, is a huge advantage. If you ever did play them again, it's not going to be at M&T Bank. It's going to be in Miami. at the Super Bowl. Now it could rain for that game as well. They get a lot of rain in Florida throughout the year, especially in February. So it was a great game. A lot like the Seattle game. I think it was much more. It was better played than the Seattle game. The Seattle game, I thought, was a lot of mistakes on both sides. This was a well-played game, and it just came down to the very end. And I mean, look at the two 49er losses this year. They lost in the 70th and final minute of the overtime game against Seattle on a field goal, and they lost in the 60th and final minute of regulation in Baltimore by a field goal. So to me, nobody really has beaten the 49ers. They just about scored them, and time expired on them. So I came away thinking the 49ers are as strong as ever. And I actually feel as though if they did play that team again, they would find a way to beat them.
49ers play-by-play voice Greg Papa joining us this morning. Greg, Fred Warner got named NFC Defensive Player of the Month for November. Can you talk about just how important he's been to Robert Saleh's defense this season?
He's had a great year, there's no doubt. I think he had a really good rookie year, making the transformation from a hybrid position at BYU, where he played mainly outside linebacker and just a little bit of slot corner. I saw him, checking receivers in the slot, kind of a safety, defensive back hybrid, but outside, never inside. So just to go inside where your eyes are in the middle, I thought he had a tremendous rookie year last year. He lacked a little physicality sometimes, where he would hit it back and the back would move him back a few yards and pick up the first down. But he got stronger this year. Physically, he's much better at that. And just tracking and seeing and diagnosing, going sideline to sideline. And then the 49ers are playing a lot more man this year than they did last year, when it was mainly cover three, where the stacked linebackers are asked just to drop into the hook zone or the curl zone. He had to man match some wide receivers. I remember playing the slot against Marquise Hollywood Brown, their wide receiver, the rookie from Oklahoma. Was really fast. And Fred ran right with him on his hip and reached around and knocked the ball away. He had a couple of those in the game on Sunday. It was like, wow. But he's showing up big time in the run game. It all coincides with the injury to Quan Alexander. Now, Quan got hurt Halloween night, the last day of October, in Arizona. And right when he went down in the middle of that game, I think Arizona correctly, smartly, went at the 49ers stacked linebackers, which were Fred, and then more so probably Drake Greenlaw, the rookie. El-Shaair also played a little bit in that game, but mainly Greenlaw. And they attacked him. And Fred was despondent after the game. He was really upset with the way he played, and he's always focused. The guy's incredibly studious, but he came back. The next game was the Seattle Monday night game. I thought that was the best game I have seen him play. He had his first 2 sacks in the NFL that night against Russell Wilson, a hard guy to sack. He had that punch out. Remember the play when Buckner had the scoop in the score to get him back into the game in the fourth quarter? That was Fred Warner. Fred has been punching the ball out so well this year. So honestly, I'm looking at him now. I think he has a really good chance to go to the Pro Bowl in his second year. I mean, he's made that kind of advancements. Now, you want him to be named to the Pro Bowl team and then not actually play in the Pro Bowl? That means the 49ers are going to the Super Bowl, but it'd be nice to have that on his resume. Could you imagine his second year in the NFL if he makes a Pro Bowl?
Yeah, it's pretty spectacular. In Greg, in the game, I can't remember how many critical fourth downs there were. I mean, the Niners scored on the first one where they elected to go deep, and Deebo Samuel caught the touchdown. They had another one where they had a pass interference, and then the one late where if they execute it, maybe they are the ones that expire the time and end the game with the ball in their hands. On that one, if I remember right, they were lined up under center, timeouts called, they changed their formation, where then you clearly look like they're going to throw. Now it is hindsight, but looking back on that decision, I have really no problem with them going for it. Maybe knowing that they're going to throw is the one thing I question, but what did you think of that decision right there?
Yeah, a lot of people have questioned Kyle's game management at the end of the first half and then at the end of the game in this game. And I just didn't see it. I didn't see it when I was calling it. I didn't see it when I went back with a fine-tooth comb and a microscope and went play-by-play and still it and look at it, look at the clock, because I'm as in tune to game management as anybody. I was critical, and I think I first guessed what he did against Seattle in the Monday night game. I mean, that game should not have been a loss. That game should have been, at the worst, a tie. And I think there was a way to play that game with 1:50 to go on your own 25. Just run the ball on first down, take the clock down to a minute, and then throw on second and third and go deep if you want. And then you can expire the clock and not have to punt the ball back to Russell Wilson. That was a different situation. It wasn't we're just going to kneel down and concede and go into the fetal position and just take the tie. I think there was a way to manage that by just running on first down where you do both. You just don't give them the ball back, but if anybody scores, it's going to be us. In this game, I just didn't see any the way he managed the end of the half was fine because the 49ers had 3 timeouts left. You had the concern about putting the ball back to Jackson. There was a block in the back right away on the first play. You're at 1st and 20. You were able to make that up, and then Robbie, just leg is just not as strong as it's going to be later in the year. And then as far as the play at the end of the game, when they went to break the huddle initially, go back and watch Baltimore's defense on that play. They had 10 guys on the line of scrimmage, not in the box, actually 10 players on the line. And their 11th guy, Chuck Clark, number 36, their safety, is sitting 5 yards off the line of scrimmage in the middle. So they had everybody on defense in the box. So to run into that would have been just a waste of time. You're not going to be able to do it. You're going to have several unblocked guys. It's not like the offense they run with Jackson where he's a running back. Mm-hmm. So, they can outnumber you. So then you go into the shotgun and you're trying to hit Kittle matched up with Earl Thomas, and Earl's really struggling. He's not the same player he used to be. And the ball got tipped. And why do they convert on theirs? Their quarterback is a running back. And he does throw the ball decently enough to make it work, but they're in the Wildcat. And they outnumber you in the run game because the quarterback's live in the run game. He's not just handing off and watching. So they're going to be better on 4th down. And he ran behind Yanda on 1 4th down. I mean, he looked like a running back the way he followed the right guard into the hole. He picked up not only the first down, but he got 3 or 4 yards. He picked it up well into the linebacker level. So it's things like that when you come right down to it, where Baltimore is going to have an advantage because their short yardage situation is so strong because their quarterback doesn't have to quarterback sneak. He quarterback running backs it, and takes the direct snap from under center. He's that good of a player that way.
This week, it's the Saints, so this schedule gauntlet continues. Different matchup. You talked about their pass rush. Michael Thomas on the offensive side having just an amazing year with the numbers he's getting from Drew Brees and Bridgewater earlier. What do you think about this matchup? How does it play to the Niners' strengths this week?
Yeah, I feel as though on the carpet in the dome there, and Dee Ford practiced yesterday, and it sounds like he's going to come back and be able to play. I think I just anticipate the 49ers pass rush and Nick Bosa and D back, and to be able to get when D was out, Eric Armstead was rushing more outside. Now you get him inside next to Buckner, and Drew Brees is under 6, and when he has lost, and he's not lost very often in his career. That's why he's a great quarterback, and he's not lost in that dome very often, but he has lost. It is the pass rush and just the size of the pass rush that I think can bother him. So I think what the 49ers did to Aaron Rodgers on that Sunday night game, where Aaron just had that blank look in his eyes, like we can't block him and we got a problem. I'm anticipating seeing this again in the game, but Drew Brees is a clever quarterback. They may roll him out a little bit. Sean Payton is a very clever play designer. Kamara is back and running well. They got Murray, the former Raider. Jared Cook, the former Raider, is a very good tight end. Ted Ginn, the former 49er, is fast, along with Michael Thomas. And the one thing that they could play with a little bit in this game, when they look at the video of the game in Baltimore, and the 49ers, I'm not going to say they struggled against the running quarterback, but there were moments where any team is, because it's just you're outnumbered, and there was some success. Where Baltimore had their most success, it was the running game with the quarterback at the mesh point with Mark Ingram and the other backs. They have a guy named Taysom Hill, number 7, who's a quarterback hybrid. He does everything. I don't even know what to call him. And he does take direct snaps, and he's a powerful runner. He's different than Lamar Jackson. He'll run right over you, more like a Tim Tebow kind of guy. So I think that what their counter to the 49ers' extreme pass rush might be, and they got Drew Brees, so it's not like they're going to bench Drew Brees.
Right.
But I think they could use the Wildcat and the direct snap game with Taysom Hill, and they use it quite a bit, right? Throughout the year. But I think they may want to use that a little bit more, based on how the 49ers struggled at times to deal with Jackson.
All right, last thing for you, Greg, and this one's going to be more self-serving for me because get a chance to call games as well. But I've seen the video of you in the booth calling games, and for the most part, what I see is you watching the game through the binoculars. I do the same, but as soon as the quarterback starts to pass, I ditch the binoculars and I'm watching full field. I just curious how you do it. Do you stick with watching the binoculars and you stay on the binoculars the entire way? Just kind of how do you go through a play in a game?
Yeah, I have special binoculars. I have high definition binoculars that are able to pretty much take me sideline to sideline.
Wow!
But they're a little bit too tight sometimes, so I do both. Television is such a TV sport, and I am talking to a radio audience where they can't see, I'm thinking, but I think a lot of people, especially with a local team, do watch the game and listen to the game simultaneously. And so I don't want, people are watching on their high-def television, they're seeing a lot more. The monitors we have in our booth, especially when we travel on the road, are very inconsistent. The placement of them and the visibility of them are you just can't count on it. So I feel like I need to watch the game live as strongly as I can. And basically the binoculars take me in the box. I can see the deep safety enough, but it'll depend on how the play unfolds. If the quarterback breaks the pocket and rolls, and I'm looking more downfield. But I have a good idea when they break the huddle where each wide receiver is. So I know which one he's going to based on just the route that I can see. So I don't stare at the quarterback. I'm obviously aware of where he is, but I'm able to train myself after all these years to be able to watch as wide of a view of the field as I can. But to answer your question, I use the binoculars when the play starts, and then depending on the play, if it's a running play, I probably don't need to have to come off of them.
Right.
But if there's something where there's going to be simultaneous action downfield and a guy running the go route 40 yards down the field, I want to see that coverage as well. So, and it's just too hard to turn the binoculars and pick that up. So I'll drop the binoculars, find it, and then just go watch it live with my eye or put the binoculars back on it later.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I was very curious about that. Greg, thank you for the time. Enjoy the trip to New Orleans, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
It's similar, just one more point on that. A lot of guys that do TV, like Joe Buck, calls the entire game off the television monitor.
Okay.
And it's easier to see, and you really want to see exactly what the audience is seeing, especially if you're on TV. Now, I think Joe will adjust based on, again, the variance of the play. But, the high-def television monitors are so much better than your eye, and obviously the binoculars are. But sometimes the problem with the binoculars is they get you too tight, and you got to be able to see the whole field.
Yeah. All right, Greg. Well, thank you for that. Again, have a good week, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.
The Drive.